On today's show, it's a rivalry game day preview. The Ottawa Senators end their road trip in La Belle Provence against the Canadiens.
And Travis Green has shuffled the forward lines. We'll analyze what we like and what we don't like.
This is Brady Tkachuk, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
Your Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome. You are locked on to the Ottawa Senators. I'm Ross Levitan alongside Brandon Piller, and today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your live bets all season long. Today is Tuesday, December 2nd, and Pillsy, I woke up with a big game feeling going into 7 o'clock tonight.
Yeah, this is a big one for both teams, Ross, as they both got humbled, we'll call it, by the two best teams in the NHL, the best in the West. The Sens losing 6-1 to the Dallas Stars. Who can remember that game? Very forgettable. And then the Habs getting beat by the Colorado Avalanche. So both of these teams want to righten their ships up against the Eastern Conference and Atlantic Division rival.
And coming off the two worst games of Tim Stützle's season, Travis Green has decided to split up the long-maintained duo of Tim Stützle with Drake Batherson. We'll get into the new look lines in just a few minutes, then get into keys to victory, how the Ottawa Senators can find a win in Montreal. They haven't been able to do that since 2 seasons ago, losing in overtime in the first meeting this year. Both of the remaining games after tonight will be played in Ottawa. But I'm looking at this as a situation that could come to a head. Both teams angry with the way they played their last game, angry because they see the jersey on the other side, which has a long history of dislike. And it's two teams that have key players out of the lineup. Ottawa does have the return of Brady Tkachuk, the return of Ridley Gregg, still no Thomas Chabot, not on the ice at the morning skate today. And Montreal has a number of injuries, but what that gives me pause for on both sides, and we saw it with Ottawa guys stepping up, is that for the Habs, there's a number of players who are trying to maintain an NHL roster spot when the injured players get healthy. So this, to me, could be a message-sending game, if for no other reason than guys just trying to make themselves a name on a big stage.
Well, and obviously we're early in the season here, but this game will decide who gets to either jump into a playoff spot or get bounced from a playoff spot, provided that it ends in regulation, which both these teams have been bringing games past regulation. So it's very possible that it's a 3-point night here, but if you're the Ottawa Senators, you want to finish this one in regulation. It's so crucial. Because let's think about it, Ross. The Ottawa Senators, since this road trip started out west, even all November, their only big win, and it's not even that big, was a 5-3 win over Boston. All the other games had been 1-goal game wins. So I want to see the Ottawa Senators get a puck line regulation win tonight, score at least one more goal, 2 more goals rather, than the Montreal Canadiens in the end of it here, because these 1-goal games it's making me stressed, Ross, and I can't handle a stressful game up against a heated rival like the Montreal Canadiens. So let's get it done here.
And the biggest rival against the Ottawa Senators.
Biggest.
I know there's fans that just hate the blue team. I get that, but it feels different with the Senators and the Habs. Maybe because both of their cores are around the same age, it just feels different. And let me know if you think I'm off with that. I know the Sens just played Toronto in the playoffs, and there's been heated moments in the regular season. Shout out Ridley Gregg's slap shot into the empty net. But with the Habs, man, there's a real disdain. But one thing you can't clown on the Habs is the atmosphere at the Bell Center, like you can with the Scotiabank Library in Toronto, where if you don't make 9 figures, you ain't sitting in that lower bowl. But Montreal, they bring the noise, and Ottawa's going to have to compete with that, because in each of the Sens' last 2 games in Montreal, they had third period leads and could not close out the game. So I'm looking at the third period because it's still an issue leading back to the rest of the Western swing on the road, and not in California. California, you are exempt from this because Ottawa had great third periods in Anaheim and San Jose that won them those games in regulation. But in Vegas, it was awful. In Dallas and in St. Louis, they got smoked. Combined score of 6-1 in those 2 third periods. So they cannot afford to be in that situation where they're looking at the momentum building on Montreal's side, because the fans are going to be helping that team go into their first home game in quite some time. They played 3 games out west on the road. They went Utah, Vegas, and Colorado, so a bit different than Ottawa's, but they're going to welcome them back. So survive the first 10 minutes and then try to take them out of the game by the third period so that you don't get that late push like we saw them score with the empty net to tie it last game.
Yeah, and we saw, Ross, that the third period being bad isn't just a trend of recent and of the road trip. TSN put the graphic up that showed by far the Sens' third period was the worst, with a goal differential of -19 on the
Shot
season.
differential. Their goal differential is not much better, though.
Oh, okay. I thought that was goal differential, but
I've got it right now. Their goal differential. Yeah, sorry. What'd you say it was?
-19.
That's the shot differential. The goal differential in the third period is -4. That's where I got the number 4 from.
Okay.
But on the road, Pillsy, they're -7 in the third period. So that's a huge note within that.
Thank God I was wrong on that. -19 goal differential would be even worse than I could imagine. Yeah, I mean, it's sad that I thought that was accurate, though, Ross, because that's how bad it's been.
Yeah, it has not been good for the Ottawa Senators in the third period. And that was during the third. On the season, they have a -23 shot differential in the third period. They are +20 in the second period, and they are +19 in the first period. So you're going to hope that those trends continue, except for the third period, where things have not gone well for the Ottawa Senators. Let's look at how these two teams match up tonight, the Sens and the Habs. Shout out to the LOSP graphics department as I pat myself on the back, but we've got new graphics alert here. If you're watching on YouTube, you can subscribe wherever you get your podcast, but we love wherever you're listening or watching. The Senators come into this game 12-9-4. They are 3-3 on their current 7-game road trip, which ends tonight. The Habs, they're 3-2-0 in their last 5 games. They beat Utah and Vegas on the road before losing handily at the hands of the juggernaut Colorado Avalanche. The Habs have the edge in goals for per game at 3.42. Senators scoring just a hair over 3 goals per game. Both teams allow a lot defensively, and we'll get to why in just a moment. Senators 3.36 goals against per game. Montreal is averaging 3.5 goals against, and a big reason why. Team save percentage, both in the bottom 5 in the National Hockey League. The Senators with an .869 and the Habs 87.1. Both teams going with their starting goaltenders tonight. Habs with a slight edge on the power play, a big edge, as most teams have, on the penalty kill. But face-offs, that's our bread and butter in Ottawa. Senators 57.8. That's 7.7% better than the Montreal Canadiens. They also have a better 5-on-5 Corsi and a higher expected goals percentage at 5-on-5. Which one of those stats are you keying in on as what could be the difference tonight?
Well, I'll combine 2 stats, Ross, if you'll have me. The advanced analytics. I'll look at the 5-on-5 Corsi percentage and then 5-on-5 expected goals percentage being in the Sens' favor. Now, not that it's massively different, but when you consider how tight those numbers usually are and what they represent, it's nice to see that the Sens have at least a couple percentages on all of those. And I feel like the Montreal Canadiens have done a really good job of capitalizing in clutch moments. Like, especially at the start of the season, they were finding ways to score in the last minute, figuring it out in overtime, and just scraping these wins together. No disrespect to doing that. I mean, the points are huge. You got to find ways to do it, and they were finding ways to do it. But I think this just shows that the Sens have been playing overall a better structured game, but unfortunately, they haven't always been able to climb out and be victorious in these tight games. So that makes me really nervous if these two teams are tied or it's a 1-goal game, regardless of who has the lead going into the third period. We just talked about the third period slump for the Sens. So I'm hoping that with some reinforcements in this lineup, I'm talking Brady Tkachuk, Ridley Gregg, that you can really use that smart, structured game to your advantage and not allow the Canadiens to sneak a victory here.
And one big key for me tonight is the power play. Travis
Yes.
Green was asked this morning, what would you like to see from your power play? He said one word, score. Hey, I'd like that too, Travis. And there is reason to believe that it could happen tonight. The Montreal Canadiens have allowed a power play goal against in 7 of their last 8 games. Opponents are 8 for their last 26 on the power play. The Habs are 4 for their last 22 over those last same 8 games. So they got a -4 goal differential in their last 8 games on the power play. Of course, that's a pretty arbitrary number, but that's where the streak was. 7 of 8, they've allowed a power play goal. Well, the Senators are -2 special teams in the last 8 games. They're 4 for 22 on the power play, and their opponents are 6 for 24 with the man advantage. You have to be aware of the Habs power play. They've got Cole Caulfield as the shooting threat. Lane Hudson is great at changing the angles with his deception at the blue line. There is a lot of weapons, and Ivan Demidov, of course, is another one of those with his elite vision. What will the Sens do on offense? Pilsy teased it off the top. There are new lines. Everything except the one that is chiseled in stone has been shaken up after 2 straight losses. We'll get into what our thoughts are on those decisions, and one that Travis Green says hasn't been made for tonight, but wink, wink, nudge, nudge. We all know that number 23 is going to be in the lineup. We'll get into that more next. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or you want to ride that hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score the next basket to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for your shot at a bigger payout. Keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push or it's a heated rivalry night in the NHL.
Ooh.
Sens, Habs tonight, Ross. The Sens are the favorites at -114. The over-under set at 6.5 at plus money, though. We talked about how both these teams score a lot and allow a lot of goals. So that's something you can get in on FanDuel. And if you're new, FanDuel is giving customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins for new customers.
I got that first $5 bet for me tonight is Brady Tkachuk, 4 shots on goal. You're getting at plus 106. I love that. I also think it would be just nice to see Brady score a goal. 4 assists in 5 games this season, plus 160 for Brady. Anytime goal scorer tonight.
Yeah, we'd love to see the captain shine in Montreal. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
All right, Pilsy, it's game day for the Ottawa Senators in the Bell Center, hockey's holy cathedral. And I know Pilsy has refused now to go boots on the ground in Montreal, has not had good luck the last 2 games, but I have a good feeling about tonight, that it's going to be a high intensity, a high flying game. I think we're going to see some fireworks because there's not one Jack guy in the lineup, but there might be 2, with Florian potentially lining up at forward with all the injuries that the Canadiens have. It's also, as always, a TSN weekday broadcast. You can find the game on TSN 5. It is a 7 o'clock puck drop, and we will have the postcast for you immediately following tonight's action. So subscribe on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. It will be posted in audio form immediately following the live stream. Pilsy, the new look Senators forward trios. I'll let you list them off here, and then we will discuss what we like. And there is one thing that has me scratching my head, but go top to bottom. You can go left to right, eh?
Just like a normal person would. I will be doing that, Ross. So, top line, Brady Tkachuk, Tim Stützle, Fabian Zetterlund.
Whoa!
Second line, David Perron, Dylan Cousins, almost said Nick Cousins there, and Drake Batherson. The chiseled in stone line, Michael Amadio, Shane Pinto, and Claude Giroux. Then the fourth line, Ridley Gregg, Lars Eller, and probably Curtis McDermott. On defense, Jake Sanderson-Zub, obviously, Tyler Clevin, Jordan Spence, and then Nicholas Matin-Palo and Nick Jensen, the Nick pair. I hadn't put that together before.
Yeah.
And then we got
The season.
Linus Ullmark likely starting. Is that confirmed?
That's confirmed. Travis Green confirming Linus Ullmark will start in goal. Ullmark is statistically, by goals saved above expected, the worst in the National Hockey League this season, and it's not particularly close. I feel like the Dallas game, where he had a -3 goals saved above expected, was a bit inflated based on the high-quality chances that they were able to get. But I also know Linus Ullmark hasn't necessarily had his best against the Montreal Canadiens since being acquired by the Ottawa Senators. Last season against Montreal, he finished 1-3 with an .840 save percentage. But this season, he was better in that game. .852, still not good enough, but there were a couple breakaway goals that he had no chance on. The overtime winner from Alex Newhook was served on a platter by Drake Batherson, and Cole Caulfield's first period breakaway goal. I think he made a couple breakaway saves there too. Loosey-goosey defensively. But my big comment here is the top line. Tim Stützle, Drake Batherson had played almost primarily together. Not almost, did play primarily. I was going to say almost exclusively together throughout this season. From the moment Brady went down and Batherson got into the lineup, those guys are number 1 and number 2 in scoring on your team. So to break them up, to me, says a lot about the video of the last 2 games. And I appreciate that the coaching staff didn't stay stubborn and say, hey, let's let them work out of this together. You've got your full complement of forwards for now the second game, because Ridley didn't play Friday in St. Louis. So second game where you have your full complement of healthy forwards available to you. It does not hurt to shuffle the deck. So I'm very happy to see Tim Stützle on one line, Drake Batherson on the other. You can always go back in game situations, offensive zone faceoffs, and the like. But to me, Stützle with Tkachuk needed to happen. Hopefully, Timmy will shoot the puck again. He's back-to-back games with 0 shots. That's not going to cut it.
Dallas.
1? Okay. Well, it was not a noteworthy shot. He's been more frustrated than he has been shooting the puck. Zetterlund, he's found the back of the net more often now. And I think that line, with a shooter's mentality, could be extremely dangerous against a very good shooting Montreal Canadiens team.
Yeah, I mean, overall, once I start thinking about it, I guess I like how these lines are, but I'm just so nervous that Tim Stützle is not going to shoot the puck here, because Brady and Zetterlund are shoot-first guys with little to no playmaking ability. So I feel like Timmy's going to really rely, or feel like he has to defer to passing the puck, which, again, Tim Stützle, an incredible playmaker. I'm not knocking his dishing ability. I've learned you shouldn't do that for top-tier players. But I still want Timmy shooting that puck, and I'm just nervous that Tkachuk and Zetterlund will change his style that's made him so effective this season. Now, I do like the line of Perron, Cousins, Batherson. It's good to get Batherson a fresh look. And when Cousins first got here, those two had really good chemistry together. So I'm hoping they can reignite that. And then on the fourth line, I'm thankful that Travis Green has put Eller back down there and at center and Greg on the wing. I did not like the decision to move Eller up into a top line wing position and have Ridley Gregg play center his first game back. That made no sense to me. So I'm mostly happy with all the lineup decisions here.
With that, Pillsy, I will start with my locked on player to watch, and that is Tim Stützle tonight. I just cannot see a world where he has a third horrific game in a row. I want to believe that tonight's the night he pops off. And if you think that he's had success at the Bell Center, you would be right. In his career in Montreal, Tim Stützle has 7 goals and 15 points in 13 career games. Only 21 shots in 13 games. That's under 2 per game. Got to pump that number tonight. Want to see him rip the puck, but he has had a lot of success in that building. You go back, especially at the 2013 season where he had 4 points in a game there. So that obviously helps pump the numbers, but Tim Stützle needs to be one of the Ottawa Senators' best players tonight if they want to win this game.
All right, well, you took my locked on player, so I'll make an easy pivot. I'll slide to the left, and I'll go with Captain Brady Tkachuk. Only 2 games back. He did have an assist in his first game back in St. Louis, but unfortunately, both those games were losses in his return. Now he's back with Timmy, a player he's played a lot with. And you mentioned how Timmy is good up against the Canadiens. Well, in Brady Tkachuk's career, he has more points against Montreal than any other franchise. In 30 games, 13 goals, 14 assists for 27 points. So I'm hoping that he can really reignite that clutch captain ability where he's hated probably more than anywhere else in Montreal. And Ross, of those 13 goals he scored, 5 of them have been game winners. So let's see Brady Tkachuk get the game-winning goal in tonight's game.
I like that, Pilsy. And Brady Tkachuk did play in that loss to Montreal last season. It was one of his last games before suffering the injury against Pittsburgh. He was dashed 2 in that 6-3 loss, and he's only got 1 assist in his last 3 games in Montreal. So this could be a statement game from the captain. I looked up when he last played in Montreal because I thought it might have been that Saturday night, Canada-USA, but he was in the lineup late in the season against Montreal. The Cousins-Perron-Batherson line to me is interesting because they are a good forechecking line and they did have some success, but I feel like it was almost exaggerated a little bit last season because you didn't have Brady. You were looking for guys to step up, and they did score 9 goals together in 193 minutes, but they also allowed 9 goals against, and their analytics were all below 50% in terms of getting offensive opportunities. And funny enough, we always say the PDO, where you want to have 100 is average for save percentage plus shooting percentage. They had a shooting percentage in 191 3 minutes of 10 on the dot and a save percentage of 90 on the dot. Okay. So they are exactly equilibrium of shooting percentage and save percentage. But that line to me needs to be good defensively because they don't have last change tonight. And if I'm Martin St. Louis, that's the line I'm attacking whenever I can to get the Suzuki line out there. So the Senators have to be aware of that. And Cousins, Perron, and Batherson need to be good defensively. David Perron, stick taps to you, sir. David Perron will be playing in his 1200th NHL game tonight. Pretty cool for the Quebec native to get to reach that milestone in La Belle Provence, but he's on a pretty illustrious list of players that have reached that mark. Only 137 in the history of the league have played 1,200 plus games. And funny enough, 2 will reach it tonight. Jamie Benn with the Dallas Stars will also be playing in his 1,200th game. But hey, stick taps to you, sir. That is a lot of NHL action. He's a Stanley Cup champion. He's had a number of solid seasons. So credit to him, man. Tough start with Ottawa last season. Obviously, everything going off the ice, then the injuries, but he's been a soldier for this team. So good for him.
Yeah, happy for David Perron, and yeah, to have that game happen in Montreal is pretty awesome. Let's see him capitalize on it. He did have a goal in St. Louis, but I'd like to see David Perron push for a little more offense here as well. And now getting Batherson on that line, that should help ignite him and Cousins.
He joins a list of 11 Senators players who have played over 1,200 games in their career. To see the whole list, go check us out on Twitter at Sens Central. We want to hear from you in the comments on YouTube as well. Your thoughts on the new look forward lines for the Senators heading into tonight's 7 o'clock game against the Montreal Canadiens. How does the opponent look? We'll get to the Habs lines and then Sens keys to victory to wrap up today's show. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Drip Drop. When I'm hydrated, everything just works better. My focus, energy, mood, even my skin looks better. That's why I've been using Drip Drop. It's a doctor-developed hydration that keeps me running at full power no matter what my day looks like. It's not your average sports drink, guys. It delivers 3 times the electrolytes with half the sugar of leading brands using science-backed formula trusted by medical professionals, firefighters, and over 90% of top college and pro teams. You should use Drip Drop as part of your daily routine. Keep you hydrated. Mix a packet in the morning, before the gym, or during your midday slump. It tastes amazing, which keeps me going back to it. My favorite flavor, strawberry lemonade, and it's a secret weapon for staying sharp and energized through long days. Hydration is a non-negotiable for me. Drip Drop helps me feel sharper, calmer, and honestly, just better overall. So right now, Drip Drop is offering our podcast listeners 20% off your first order. Go to dripdrop.com and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL. That's dripdrop.com, promo code LOCKEDONNHL for 20% off. Stock up now and keep your body and mind performing at their best with Drip Drop.
All right, Pillsy, it's rivalry night in the National Hockey League. Senators and Canadiens from the Bell Center at 7 o'clock. It is one of 10 games on the National Hockey League schedule, including another All-Atlantic Division game. Two of them, one in Detroit, where the Bruins, without David Pastrnak, will take on the Red Wings, and then it will be a second-round rematch in Florida, the Maple Leafs taking on the Panthers. Tampa Bay Lightning, they're rolling right now. They're taking on the Islanders in New York. We got the Stars visiting the New York Rangers. And out west, we've got the LA Kings taking on the Washington Capitals. There's a number of other games, but those are the ones that include Eastern Conference teams, as this is as close as I can remember seeing it in some time after U.S. Thanksgiving, Pillsy. You are either out of the playoffs, you're third in the division. It is so clustered right now. And with the Olympics coming up, big break, lots of teams are playing a ton of hockey. And injuries are catching up on a number of teams. I mentioned David Pastrnak out of the lineup. Well, the New York Rangers will be without defenseman Adam Fox for an extended period of time. And that's the Sens' next opponent. They'll be taking on the Rangers on Thursday at home. And then if you look a couple weeks from now, where we'll be boots on the ground in Winnipeg, the Senators won't have to see Connor Hellebuck either. So all of these things are not a Sens exclusive issue, as Ottawa's been without two of their captains for majority of the season. No Thomas Chabot again tonight. I can hear Habs fans screaming at us right now. You're talking injuries and you're not talking about us? Hey, fair enough. The Montreal Canadiens are dealing with their own fair share of infirmary havers, including Caden Gooley, very solid top four defenseman. They'll be without Alex Newhook, who scored the overtime winner in this first head-to-head meeting this season. They'll be without Kirby Dach, who is the Habs' answer to Josh Norris was with Ottawa. You can see the potential. You want him in the lineup, but just cannot seem to stay healthy. And Patrick Laine, probably a little bit of the same with him, but he is also out for tonight's game. Here are how the Habs will line up. Both coaches doing a little bit of a rivalry dance, I'll call it, where Martin St. Louis says every player in the NHL roster healthy right now will take warm-ups, decisions to be made after, so don't chisel this one in. Here's how we think it will be. Nick Suzuki, top line center between Cole Caulfield and Zachary Bolduc. The second line of Oliver Kapanen with Uri Slavkovsky and Ivan Demidov. The third line, Jake Evans with Alexandre Texier and Josh Anderson. And the fourth line, Joe Veleno with Florian Jacki and Brendan Gallagher. On defense, Mike Matheson, fresh off a 6x6 contract extension. He'll be paired with Noah Dobson. You've got Adam Engstrom with Lane Hudson on the second pair, and then Arbor Jacki with Alexandre Carrier on the bottom pair. Jaden Struble will take warm-up tonight. He's been out day-to-day recently. They also have one other healthy scratch. Davidson will be, I'd imagine, on the outside looking in, but if we'll take Martin St. Louis at his word, he could also be in the lineup. Pillsy, this team is led by their offensive shooting threats of Cole Caulfield, Nick Suzuki. Who are you looking out for heading into tonight's game?
Well, ironically, neither of those guys that you mentioned. I will be looking out for the guy that was just recently taken off that line, number 20, Uri Slavkovsky. This is a guy that plays a big power forward game. I'm really happy for Uri. He gets to go up against his hero, Brady Tkachuk, tonight. So that's something that he can look forward to. But he's been someone that the Montreal Canadiens have really relied upon in a bunch of different areas, including the power play, tied for the lead in power play goals on the Habs with 4. I was reading an article that was talking about how him switching from that top line has really caused Caulfield and Suzuki to have to play a different game. They relied upon him down low, using that big body to hold the puck in the offensive zone. So now they got Bolduc there. They're working on having that same kind of chemistry. And Slavkovsky playing a second line minutes instead of that top line. He's adjusting to that as well. But he's a guy that it took him some time, like most young players, first overall draft pick. But now I think he's really kind of figured out his game. And he's a big body that the Sens are going to have to find a way to deal with.
Yeah, they're going to have to be able to win the board battle against that line, because if you get Caulfield, Suzuki into open space, they can make you pay. Cole Caulfield right now comes in on a 7-game point streak where kind of flip-flop from typical Cole Caulfield stat lines. During the 7-game point streak, he's only got 2 goals, 6 assists to finish that off with 8 points. And Nick Suzuki has 7 points in his last 5 games. He's got at least a point in all of them, including a 3-point effort against the Utah Mammoth that could have been 4. He hit the post on an empty net. That would have been, I think I saw on social media, his first career hat trick. Seems a little wild, but he's very much developed into an elite 2-way, 200-foot centerman. I used to kind of laugh, Habs fans suggesting that he should be on the Olympic radar. He's still not on my Team Canada. There's just so many centermen that are deserving. And I think I've been on record, and I'll do it again. Both Bedard and Celebrini should be on this team. But I understand why Habs fans are banging the table for their captain, because he has really developed his game. It felt like he was always solid all around, but didn't have that like separating elite offense to go along with it. But last season, he hit 89 points, which is the most by a Montreal Canadiens player since the mid-90s. They haven't had a 90-point scorer since, I believe, Vincent Damphousse in 1994-95. I might be off on the year there by 1. But yeah, it's been a long time since they've had offensive contributors like Suzuki and Caulfield. And then I'll get to my lookout player, Ivan Demidov. He scored the game-tying goal against Ottawa late in that third period in the first meeting head-to-head. 1 goal in 1 game against Ottawa. And the thing with Demidov, and you could say this about Lane Hudson as well, and Cole Caulfield, but I feel like Hudson and Demidov, they've got that electric skating that really kind of brings you out of your seat. And when they start wheeling up the ice at home, there's a buzz that almost elevates by each stride and gets louder and louder. It's throwback to PK Subban. It was the same feeling that they had at the Bell Center. So you cannot let them wind up behind the net and get ahead of steam. They are 2 of the fastest players in the league, and Ottawa has to be cognizant of that, because Ottawa is a very aggressive forechecking team. You cannot pinch. I know Nick Jensen's had some tough pinches this year. Cleven's had some tough pinches this year. Jordan Spence is coming off his worst game of the season. Your D have to stay back. When that line is out there, both lines are out there, and even just when number 48 on the back end, Lane Hudson's wheeling around, because they can make you pay. And if this becomes a game of trading rush chances, I don't like the Senators, finishing opportunity in this game. Ottawa wants this to be a hard chip and chase game where there's a lot of mucking it up in the corners, a lot of physicality, a lot of net front battles. So Ottawa is going to have to draw Montreal into that game and away from the high-flying rush offense that they thrive off of.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, anytime Lane Hudson or are we going with Demidov now? I've always done Demidov, but you really were hammering Demidov home there.
Yeah, you know what? Locked On Habs has been rolling with Demidov, so I'm just going to follow their lead, and they're local experts there, so we'll go with Demidov for now.
Okay, anytime Hudson and Demidov have the puck, I'm instantly tensed up, especially when those 2 are on the ice together. Anything is possible, honestly. Like, now, do they make some defensive mistakes sometimes because of how offensively gifted they are? Absolutely. But to catch them on an offensive mistake, you got to be pretty quick with it, which is tough to do to match their speed, like you mentioned. So this Montreal Canadiens team, despite how many injuries they have, are still very, very dangerous. And I think, Ross, if you want to get into keys to victory here. The Habs fans are probably looking at the Sens goaltending being like, oh, nice, we can take advantage of this. But that hasn't been so great in their crease either. And although Montembeault, I think we have inflated numbers of how he does up against the Sens in our head, Ross, but in 8 games, 4-4 record and an .884 save percentage and .315 goals against. So not like he's been lights out, really. So the Ottawa Senators can find ways to score up against Montembeault. And I think the way they got to do it, I'll piggyback on what you were mentioning, but instead of mucking it up in the corners, do that in front of the net. Make sure he can't see the puck. Make sure that scrambling in front of the net is happening. Loose pucks. You got Brady Tkachuk back. You got Ridley Gregg back. Those two, that's what they do, is they sit in front of the net and they cause chaos there. So find ways to get those loose pucks and bury them, because I think Montembeault, like whenever we've watched him, he's been pretty good at seeing far wristers and things like that. Like he's always very positionally sound, or at least in my opinion. So you got to find ways to get him off his game and have him not be able to see that puck. Defenseman, I want to see low tippable shots from the point. Nothing above the waist, in my opinion. Just keep it all low to create that chaos. Sure, sometimes it's going to hit shin pads, get blocked, but at least with the aggressive forechecking that the Ottawa Senators usually have, you hope that those guys are down low and that they can get it. And like Ross said, no pinching. So if that happens, fall back and allow the forwards to be doing that dirty work, in my opinion.
I would be very comfortable with a clogged up neutral zone type game tonight for Ottawa. Don't trade chances. I know that hockey fans who are tuning into this rivalry game, who aren't fans of either team, they want to see it be a 5-4 game, high flying offense. But if you're the Senators at the end of a long trip, which we cleared up yesterday, this will decide the mood in such a big swinging way. You either feel fantastic, 4-3 on the road trip, you beat a rival to end it off, you're coming home for 3 straight games, or it's like, we've lost 3 straight games, we're limping home, we've got 1 win with Brady Tkachuk in the lineup so far this season, we need to have some soul searching. So to me, this is the most important game so far of the season. I just think that this so far, obviously it's going to be a long
You're not
season.
calling it a must win? The most important game, but not a must win?
No, I'm just saying this to me, like we talk about Dallas and Vegas, although Vegas has struggled too, but they're obviously elite. There is not a measuring stick quality in this game. To me, this is 2 teams that have measured themselves. They know what they are. They know how they need to play, which are different styles to win.
Yep.
And now they're putting them up against each other. And we're going to see some fireworks tonight. I truly think this is going to be an entertaining game, no matter if it's 2-1 or 6-1, one way or the other. I truly think that there is going to be a reason or 10 to tune into tonight's game. So I'm really excited about it. To rehash quickly, my key to victory is the third period and not allowing the Olay chance, not allowing that building to get to its decibel limit. Ottawa needs to bore every single person that isn't wearing a Sens jersey in that building into sleep. That is the key to winning tonight's game, and we will see it at 7 o'clock. Pillsy, any final thoughts on today's show?
Final thoughts for me is the story of Alex Formenton and the Ottawa Senators is pretty much wrapped up now, as yesterday at 5 p.m. was the deadline for them to either sign him or move him if he was going to play in the NHL this season. Obviously, that did not happen. Bruce Garriock reported there wasn't really a lot of interest in other teams acquiring him. The Sens wanted a draft pick back. Apparently, no teams bid on that, and he will be remaining playing in Switzerland. His contract there goes until the Christmas break. But I do believe the Sens hold his rights till 2027. So take that for what it is. But Alex Formenton will not play in the NHL this season.
No, he will not. And this is at a time where the others who were acquitted in the sexual assault Hockey Canada trial will be making moves. Their suspensions, I should say, are over. Carter Hart just called up for the Vegas Golden Knights.
He'll play his first game tonight, likely.
Yeah, and Callan Foote, I believe, is the other guy who signed on an AHL-only contract for the rest of the season with the Chicago Wolves. For those, and we see it in the comments every once in a while, oh, Alex Formenton would fix all the Senators' problems. As someone who was Alex Formenton's biggest on-ice fan when he was with Belleville, 27 goals his rookie year. Pillsy and I were working with Belleville at that time. You take away all the baggage, of which there is a lot. Alex Formenton has 5 goals and is dash 10 in 20 games in the Swiss League. So I just want to put that to fans who are saying this guy's, you're wasting away talent and, screw what anyone thinks he'd help the team. I really don't think he would. Ottawa, they need a top 6 contributor right now or someone to step up and be an offensive weapon. And that is what may be happening on the phones, as Pierre LeBrun reporting this morning on RDS that the Senators are very active on the phone line. So we'll keep that in mind. And any breaking news that happens, we'll have something for you immediately. Locked On Senators, bonus coverage, wherever you get your podcasts. We'll usually go live on YouTube first. So make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell to be the first to jump in, like you will in the postcast tonight. Senators and Habs. And I've got a bonus key to victory. And that is take advantage of the Habs decor. They've got some smaller players, which is, to your point, be physical in front of the net, in front of Hudson, in front of Carrier. And then they've also got some inexperience. Adam Engstrom, if he does play tonight, it could be Jaden Struble. If it is Adam Engstrom, it will only be his 3rd career NHL game for the 22-year-old.
Does he have an NHL goal?
He has no points in the NHL.
Oh, boy.
Yes, but Ottawa needs to be at their forechecking best to win this game. We'll chat with you more in the postcast tonight. In the meantime, follow us on Twitter at Sens Central for the latest updates. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. Thank you for liking, watching, listening, and engaging with the show. This has been another edition of the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.